Well, hi everybody. Welcome back. I know I promised a different video this week, and I apologize that it's not finished yet. I got a little sidetracked recently when my friend AB Science's video received an inordinate amount of attention from the globe-denying crowd. I found most of the comments there to be pretty much the same old flat earth denial, deflection, demands for more information as usual. But one comment caught my attention as being very interesting, as it included a link to an experiment. This comment read, "Your cartoon means nothing compared to real life video. Explain this." So I went to watch the video and had an immediate answer. So in my excitement to reply, I posted, "Hey dummy, did you even notice in your video both the hammer and the feather hit the mat at the same time? That is exactly what is predicted by the gravitational equation. Nice debunking yourself." About 10 minutes later, I noticed I made an error and felt I needed to self-evaluate. The conversation in my head sort of looked like this. Uh-oh, I think I made a mistake.
What mistake? That's Antonio Subirat. You know he's always wrong.
Now, no one is always wrong. That's right, Troggy, and this time you may have been wrong. You may be right.
What do you mean, he may be right? No, he's not. Go ahead, whack Antonio with that club. You know you want to.
Well, yeah, sure, but still, let's look at this. Is it possible I did what I accused globe deniers of doing? Did I jump to a conclusion? Yes, you may have. Did you take your time to critically evaluate Antonio's work? No, I don't think I did. Did I? No, you didn't. You went with your first gut reaction, didn't you?
Who cares? Look at who we're dealing with here. He's wrong.
Maybe not. Like Good Trog said, I didn't properly and critically evaluate Antonio's work. How do I know he's wrong? You know you have some work to do, right, Troggy? Yeah, okay.
Oh, come on. What's the matter with you? You can't be serious.
Yes, I am, Bad Trog. I owe Antonio a proper apology and a proper peer review. So, Antonio, I formally apologize for giving a knee-jerk reaction to your experiment. I'm truly sorry if I offended you in any way. I owe your experiment the same courtesy to anyone who is willing to perform an experiment. So I will keep an open mind and evaluate the experiment according to the scientific method, and offer a proper peer review of your work, followed by my conclusions of that work. Before we begin, let's take a quick review of the scientific method. First, we ask a question. Then we do background research. Then we construct a hypothesis. And then we test with an experiment, which is followed by analyzing the data and drawing conclusions. And then finally, we communicate the results. As you can see in this simple flowchart, there are decision gates that must be answered, which can cause a revamping of the original idea, which in turn can start the process all over again until the question is answered. With this in mind, let's take a look at Antonio's experiment. Okay, 1 second, Antonio. What question did you ask? What background research did you do? What is your hypothesis? You're skipping the first 3 steps and going straight to step 4. And what kind of feather makes that sort of clunk when you set it down? What sort of feather weighs 6 grams? Granted, you did show us that the hammer and feather weigh differently, but what is your stated purpose? At first glance, they do appear to be hitting the mat at the same time. Looking at this frame by frame, it does appear that the hammer hits the mat a split second before the feather, but it's hard to tell. It's a little blurry toward the end. This could easily be caused by air resistance against the feather. Okay, so what? Again, what is your question? What is your research? What is your hypothesis? And finally, you asked me, how about that? No, Antonio, that's not how this works. What are your conclusions? What do you think you've shown here? Okay, so we have a few problems following the scientific method. To be fair, it was brought to my attention while working on this video that Antonio did update this experiment. So let's take a look and see if he has corrected any of his mistakes. Alright, well, it appears that so far none of the previous mistakes have been corrected. In fact, now we have compounded those mistakes. First problem. Why are you playing music here instead of telling us what you are doing and why? I'm not going to accuse you of trying to hide a bit of what's happening in your video. I don't have enough information to make such a statement. I'm just saying it seems odd to be hearing elevator music here. I also have to question why you're wearing such dark clothing. It does make it more difficult to see what's happening during your experiment. Again, I'm not accusing you of anything. Maybe you just don't know any better. I'm not sure either way. Now, since you didn't state your hypothesis, I'm still not sure what you think you're proving or disproving here. So I'm going to have to make an educated guess since I'm not a mind reader. Option 1. You're trying to disprove the moon landings. This is the same experiment performed on the moon by the crew of Apollo 15. If that is your hypothesis, then all you've shown is that this could be performed here on Earth with equal results, provided you take air resistance into account or do the experiment in a vacuum chamber. Your results were almost the same as the video from Apollo 15, but only almost. The idea that this could be done on Earth is not proof that the moon landings are fake. Which leads me to option 2. You're trying to disprove gravity. If this is the case, you have failed miserably. After taking air resistance into account, your results were exactly what I would expect to see when looking at Galileo's hypothesis and Newton's gravitational equation. Furthermore, if you're trying to disprove gravity, you would also need to show a lack of acceleration of the objects that you dropped. You would need a radar gun to show whether or not acceleration was happening. Density by itself doesn't explain acceleration of falling objects. And finally, if you're trying to disprove gravity, you would need to come up with a mathematical equation to show what it is that you think you've shown. My conclusions, after analyzing your experience and the lack of explanations on your part, is that you've effectively dropped 2 objects of different weights. Those objects behaved as predicted by science. So I stand by my original statement of nice debunking of yourself. I suggest that you learn more about the scientific method and redo your experiment, paying very close attention to details. Because quite frankly, Antonio, a 5th grader could have done a better job. Well, folks, that's all we have for this week. If you've liked what you've seen so far, please hit the subscribe and like buttons, tickle those bells. It does help my channel grow. I appreciate you taking the time to watch with me. I'll see you next week.